Hello and welcome back to another Barn Automotive YouTube video on the LS3 swap slamgram. So you will notice it is back on the ground on wheels. So I've done a lot to get it back to this stage, and I haven't recorded any of that because I thought, you know what, you've seen most of the stuff going in once already. It's the same process, everything's just painted now. But I will show you the front of the car, under the car, where we're at, show you around everything, and then I will move on to what we're doing next. So let's go take a look at the front of the car. This is how we're going to sit when it's done. Pretty much everything is in its correct position. Because we are doing the plates that blank off this, I'm not going to relocate the battery because we can hide it. So that's going to stay there just for ease, really. We have extra terminals down here, so we only run the one wire from there to here. Then everything else that needs power is running off of that terminal there. You can see with all the accessories, the extra ones, the AC pulley, the dyno and the power steering pulley. We are close, but we are free. So, and it shouldn't interfere with anything. We are well and truly free of the belt. There's a few other bits that need tidying, like this. That needs doing nicer behind that. I can't get it down behind it because there's not the room. It would be nice if we could, but it's going to have to look neat along the back. What else do we have? Yeah, your radiator's in the right position. I didn't need to do a cutaway for the radiator cap that I was talking about. I just need to trim a piece out the bottom of this, and then you can get the cap on and off. So that works well. That's pretty much everything from above. I will show you under the car so you can see everything powder coated. Starting from the rear of the car then, we have the differential rebuilt with was it Qualife limited slip differential inside. That's a fairly easy process to do. I didn't record any of that, but it is literally diff in, shim it, check your preload, your knock, which is your playing it, and then put it back in. Fairly easy, but not easy. Our fuel lines are run all the way up to the front of the car. They follow the original path line, so it's through the frame and then up on some brackets, then up into the engine bay. This heat shield is to stop the exhaust. Is probably going to run the same as the original path out here and then carry on out here. So there is a heat shield that I have made that is basically steel with aluminium heat shield either side with like this fiberglass wadding in between, and that will stop that from heating up too much if the exhaust is close. Air suspension back in, control arms back in. These are all polyurethane bushings. Same for the subframe bushings. Everywhere is now poly bushes. Transmission, on the transmission stand, powder coated. There is only one bolt on that in at the minute because I need two of them. I didn't have two of them. And there are the little, again, rubber poly bushings, spacing that out from there so that you don't get all the vibration through that and into the frame. Start the motor is on. Only thing left to do to really be able to crank this over is connect the ignition line to the ignition key. Then you could essentially crank this over, but there are no fluids or anything in it, so we will be waiting a while until we have everything in it. The transmission selector is on. That wasn't easy because now the company that supplies us with everything supplied an aftermarket bracket for this, and I'm fairly certain it wasn't made at the right angle because it was poking out down here somewhere, and you had to have too much. It does have a flexi head, but there was way too much tension on it, so I had to remake that basically, which last time they provided me with an OEM one. This time they have provided me with an aftermarket one, and yeah, thanks for that. Transmission lines to the transmission cooler. These are way too long and we'll be having them remade. There is so much excess on that came with them, but they are just in place to know kind of the path they're going to run. And the front subframe, obviously, and control arms, everything are back in. Again, poly bushings everywhere. Yeah, so now it sits back on wheels. I don't have the brake kit in yet, so you'll see there's no brakes on it, so I haven't bothered putting any on for now. And that is about where we sit for now. And this is now inside the car. So you can see this is your wiring loom for the engine. Your ECU is there. It's not actually mounted at the minute, it's just hanging there. The fuse box will be mounted up there. And then that's pretty much everything there tucked away that we need. And then most of the wiring that we don't need is now taken out of this. As you can see, it looks a lot tidier than before. The heater core is this, that fitted back in. It's very tight, but that fitted back in without having to do any adjustment on that. So then we have our cable that comes for the selector in the car. Next up, we are moving on to electronics, and now this is where the project really starts to kind of slow down. We have been making rapid progress. Everyone thinks it's almost finished that comes and takes a look at it, but we have only just scratched the surface with electronics, and it's probably my least favorite part of any project like this. And it's going to take a while to get it all done. I will show you all the things that we have to wire in. We have here the original dash installation, but this isn't the original instrument cluster. This is an electronic screen, so an LCD screen that all your gauges and everything will appear up on when you're driving. So I've had to adapt the original surround so that that fits in it. That part is pretty much done, but that still needs wiring into the car. So then we have this mess of wires that I've already labeled up with where they need to go, so that that is kind of quicker to put into the car. This is how that will power on and then read all the sensors that it needs to read, like RPM, speed. What else is there in an instrument cluster? Oil temperature, fuel level, all that stuff. So that is how that then works. So that is one of the electronic things that needs doing. Then we have an even bigger bird's nest of wires. I'll just show you it in the box. This is central lock-in for the car. So once we are done with it, the only thing you will have for this car, you won't have a key. You will have key fob to unlock it and a sensor for when you're in the car. A key, what is it, tag thing, and that will pick up this so that you can start the car off of this. And this will be the last thing that I put in the car, because right now I know all the ignition's good. It's one less thing to troubleshoot when trying to get everything running and starting. So everything will get wired in with the original key system, and then I will change over to the keyless start. That would be probably the very last thing I do electronics wise, once I know everything else works in the car. Electronic shifter, that all needs wiring in. It's a manual shifter, but then it's a tap shifter at the same time, so you can tap shift gears. So there's some electronics that need doing for that as well, and two other things that will be electronics. Cooling fans for the radiator. Thermostat needs wiring up so that the cooling fans switch on at the correct temperature and keep the engine running nice and cool. That's fairly simple to wire up. And then we have the electronic handbrake as well that hasn't arrived yet. There could be some packaging issues with that as to how it's going to fit under the car, wherever it needs to sit. I don't quite know how freely we are to position that. But it's going to be very close to that drive shaft. There's not much space under there if it has to go in the original position where the cable is now. If we can make our own cabling, then it's not an issue. So, yeah, first up out of this, there will be an order to it. We will be going dash installation or screen installation. It doesn't need to go in as the whole dash. So the screen installation, and then fans, ignition start, gear selector, central lock-in, push button start. We'll go something like that order. There are some of the original wires we need to find for certain things in that dash cluster, and that is the left turn indicator light, right turn indicator light, dash lights, high beam indicator, and fuel sender for your fuel level. The only one we will have to search is which wire is your fuel sender wire. The rest we will measure. So how you figure it out, simple, you probably already know. Voltmeter, and then I always just rest my earth somewhere where it's always earth, so I'm not having to hold it. I hate having to faff around with both hands trying to keep it going. And then you just power up the thing that you're looking for. So this is the light in your dash that flashes to tell you which way you're turning, and you go along and poke it in each one to see which one powers up or which one has power. And when you hit one with power, turn it off. If it doesn't drop to 0, it's not that one, so you keep looking. Okay. And it's probably this one, because this one pulses, so 9 volt 0, 9 volt 0. Turn it off and it drops to 0 volts. So then all I do is separate that wire, get a piece of tape, just double check, yeah, get a piece of tape and label that up as right turn indicator. Then we do that for the other cables that we need out of the original dash plug. And then the only other wires left in that are for sensors for the engine. Quick Google search to see if we could find which one was your fuel sender wire, just from searching online, but nothing came up with an exact answer. So how you then measure for which one is your fuel sender wire, you set your voltmeter to ohms, and then basically how I do it is I poke each one of these and I go and fill up the tank with a couple of litres, and what you're looking for is the resistance to change whilst you're filling up. So in your fuel tank you have a level arm that goes up and down, and it basically just changes the resistance on the wire, which gives you the full or empty reading. So as you fill up, that goes up and your resistance should be dropping. So we started at like 175 ohms resistance, and now we're down at 117 after filling up, I think, about 7 litres, and testing on each one. But I write down all of them to start with, so the resistance on all the lines that aren't labelled already, and then fill it up a little bit, come back, check it, and if any of them are changed, then I stick the probe in, and I put this somewhere I can see it, and then I just fill it up a lot so I can watch if it changes. And we found the one that changed, so we now have our fuel sender wire, left turn signal, right turn signal, high beam, 12 volt power or key power, and this is the last one I need from this set. So we've found that. Then we can start plugging everything in, joining them together. I'm on to the last wire before we can plug in the dash and see whether we have anything working, basically. The last wire is the ground, so we need to put a terminal on that. And now for the moment of truth. We have power. So we have a fuel reading. Obviously we're not going to have temperature yet, RPM, miles per hour, no fuel pressure. And we have voltage. Didn't realise I'd, oh yeah, 12 volt power, yeah. So that's the battery voltage. It's because it has a charger on right now, it's sitting so high. Next up is check for, yeah, so we have right turn, left turn, full beam, and that was basically everything we'd wired in then. So everything so far works. Next up, we go for these wires. So with these need to go to the relevant sensors. So we have oil pressure. I've already installed the oil pressure sensor just above the oil filter on a little cap that sits there that I've tapped and threaded it into. So that runs to that. That one's very easy. Tacho RPM is the next one that I'm actually going to do, and we can't test that until we start the car, but we need to run that to the ECU, and I think it's pin 48 on the black ECU plug. I need to double check that, but this will go to that, and then it needs a, what is it, a bring up resistor. Basically we don't get enough of a signal from that to give us the RPM reading, so we have to put in a resistor that brings up the signal from a 12 volt source. So it'll be this to the RPM reading wire on the ECU, then another wire coming into this with a 10 ohms resistor, I think it is, from a 12 volt power source, and then we will get an RPM reading. And then we also have temp sensor. That isn't installed on the engine yet, but that is the water temperature sensor. Again, that one's very easy to do. Speed, we need to figure out how we're going to get that, because normally you have on the 6L80, most applications is four-wheel drive in swaps anyway. So then you have a transfer case on the back of the 6L80 transmission, and then in that transfer case you have a analog or digital speed sensor that you can then take your speed reading from for a dash with some, either a conversion kit if it's digital, or wiring into this, sorry, a conversion kit if it's analog, or wiring directly into this if it's already a electronic speed reader. But we have two-wheel drive application, and we don't have a transfer case with a speed sensor on. So I need to figure out where I'm taking the speed reading from to get the speed working on this, but that can be done later. That is just one wire, kind of. So happy that it works. Now that the dash is done and wired in, next stage is these two electric fans, and that is these two cables in my hands here. I'm not going to show you it, but I will talk you through what has to happen. It's quite a simple setup. So you have a relay that controls each fan. They always come on together, but you have two separate relays. And basically what will happen is green one goes to ground. You have two sets of black. One set of black is 12 volt ignition power. The other set is the switch for the thermostat. I will show you the thermostat in a second. And then blue goes to 12 volt power, so that will go over to the connections I have here for the battery. That goes to constant 12 volt power. That's the blue, sorry. And then with a fuse in it. So yeah, it's quite a simple setup. You see this coming out here. This is your thermostat switch. So as this heats up, there is a switch inside which will flick on, which will then power the fans on when it gets to a certain temperature. Again, super simple. You just have a what they call like an O-ring connector that goes on there with your wires connected to it. Do it up, and that is that. So that is how you connect up the radiator fans. For now in this video, there is actually only one more thing that I want to try, and that is because someone asked me the other day, have you test fitted the hood yet? You can see the hood behind me, and the answer to that question is no, I haven't test fitted the hood yet. I don't think it's, well, I think it's going to fit, but it's best I test it now. If it doesn't fit and the engine is a little bit too high, then what we're going to do is make a sleek bulge in the hood. But I'm kind of confident it's going to fit. We don't sit that high. The only bit that sits kind of high is your intake. But other than that, we're below where I think everything sat before, and this year oil checker dipstick sits kind of high. But now we're going to find out whether the hood fits back on. So let's go. Okay, so it looks like it kind of sits right, but maybe I have a torch. There is something at the front that is stopping it. We have plenty of room with the engine intake. It's close to that dipstick, but I think we'll still clear it. I think what the issue is you have the like sprung pin that pushes the hood down, like the first latch that locks it in place. That has to go down through the hole, and the spring has to be compressed enough for the latch to catch it, but that pin can't go down any further because it hits top of the radiator. It looks cool with the hood on, because boom, when that grill's back in place, you're never going to know that there's an LS3 V8 sat underneath there. And you pull up to the traffic lights and you'll give someone a shock. And that is it for this video. Now, in the next video, I'll be starting this up very briefly because it won't have coolant in it, but I will be able to start it, and then we can hear it blowing straight out the headers. It will be super loud. But we're at that point where we can turn it over. I just need to connect the fuel relay to get the fuel pump pumping the fuel up here, fill up the 5W30 engine oil and the transmission oil, and then we can do that almighty first start. So you definitely do not want to miss that in the next video. Make sure you subscribe and you'll be notified when it comes out. And for now, I will see you in the next Barn Automotive YouTube video.